to be more. Thank you, Bridget, for doing that. Just so you know, we're recording this so that people who can't uh, be here live can watch it later and get the really great information that we will get from this presentation. So welcome to the Family Exchange. This is February 27th. We're excited that you're all here. We have a good presentation set up for you. And while I go through these first few slides, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat your name, your title, and your location. And that really helps us know where we need to spend our marketing time and dollars in getting more people to come. So thank you for being here. So this is tools to survive the juvenile justice system. And we are so lucky to have Miss Jeanette Bocanegra with us from Justice for Families. And I'm going to let her introduce herself here in just a minute. I need to get through the NTAC slides, and then we'll turn it over to her for a discussion. This is, the regular disclaimer that we go through every time we have this meeting. It's we have to, you know that this is provided by NTAC and does not reflect the official views of the federal government. So thank you for joining us with that. I have to move you somehow. How do I move you? Okay, now I can move. As with all Zoom calls, there is an issue of security. And if an issue comes up, we will disconnect you and you will immediately be given another link to join in on another site. So I will continue our discussion. These are the wonderful partners at NTAC who provide all of this information and lots of other sessions and topics and technical assistance and anything that you need to help inform the work that you're doing. And so these are the great partners that we have, that we work with day in and day out. As a center, our vision is that all children, youth, and families living with and impacted by mental health challenges will have access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive in a comprehensive and equitable system of care. We serve a wide cross-sector of audience, including everyone from state leaders to providers, to school workers, infant and early childhood providers, community-based providers, peer supervisors, family partners, youth partners, and much, much more. So our services range from individual consultation to more in-depth sessions like the one we're offering today, to peer learning exchanges and tools to help you. Our aim is to really create those outlets for communication, collaboration, and resource sharing amongst all of us. Please also make sure to check out all of our resources and archived presentations on the website, or go to the Contact Us link there to request consultation and training. The website will be at the end of the slides, and you will get a copy of these slides tomorrow or the next day when it is sent out to everyone who joined today. So a couple of things before we get started. We wanted to address some of the commonly asked questions. You will receive a certificate of completion for this event, and it comes from Jay Bloom at carsrp.org. And if you don't get it, make sure that you look in your spam file or junk file and see if it came to you there. We also, like I said, you'll get a copy of the presentation, you'll get the slides and the recording. You'll get both of them. So, NTAC, it puts on a great virtual summit every year. This year it is May 14th through 16th. The link to register is at the bottom of this page. It's also at another page at the end of the slideshow. So if you have not signed up for this virtual summit, it is a great opportunity to learn from the best who are working in this field and can give us some great information. So welcome to today's session. Now that we've made it through all of our housekeeping items, we want to make sure that you feel welcome to Tools to Survive the Juvenile Justice System. A little bit about our agenda for the day. We've done the welcome and the introductions, and I'll let Miss Jeanette introduce herself, and she uses her personal lived experience all throughout her presentation. So I'm excited for you all to learn this. Parents, we're going to talk about parents in the justice system. We'll talk about family support. We'll talk about incarceration and what are the signs of burnout. And then what do you see and how you can get involved and what can you do? So, and then we'll talk about what our next family exchange is at the end. So this is Jeanette Bocanegra. She's the Executive Director for Justice for Families. And Jeanette, I'm going to turn the time over to you. There you go.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Before I start, I just want to say thank you to everyone, right? These topics are not usually easy to talk about, but I also want to give a special shout out to Deborah Willett, who I met many, many years ago, navigating juvenile justice and being part of the Justice for Families research project back in 2010 and 2012. So thank you. This is really an amazing moment, right? Where now we can tap into some of these resources that can support families, whether it's juvenile justice, child welfare, right? Which affects the mental health and the mental well-being of our young people and our families. Well, thank you. My name is Jeanette Bocanegra, and I am the Executive Director with Justice for Families. Tools to survive the juvenile justice. I thought surviving juvenile justice would be understanding the language, right? Understanding language and being able to navigate a system. Justice for Families, a national network of family leaders impacted by the juvenile justice system who worked on a research project back in 2012. The report was released, and what it demonstrated was an alarming crisis in the juvenile justice system, and families that were impacted by that system were stigmatized, right, by a system who penalized them as raising horrible kids. What we were able to do is demonstrate that it takes families to transform how systems have been working. And our two main goals are to transform the juvenile justice system so that it is driven by the interests of young people and their families, and to move away those resources back into communities that have been mostly impacted by these horrible policies and, most of all, practices. Next slide. And Justice for Families, since 2012, we've been working with families from across the country, developing curriculums and trainings on how to give them the tools needed to advocate in their communities, to look at policies to see how they impact. But we also know that in order for this work to really move, we got to support, heal, and strengthen the skills of our family leaders, because it can be very, very overwhelming. We have a flagship training, and I'm really proud of the work that we've been delivering, right, from state to state. We create models as what we're doing currently in New York in 2020. Everyone was impacted by COVID, right? It wasn't a silo situation. It highlighted all the issues and concerns that families and community talk about. We were able to to do a training virtually that we've done in person for many years, because we know that peer support is necessary, that emotional support is necessary. And who better than somebody that understands? 2023, we decided to take our flagship training and bring it back in person. But not just bring it back in person, but go into a space that we're not only going to facilitate a training, a development of skills and knowledge, but also healing, right? How do we incorporate those healing techniques, whether it's breathing, yoga, taking a walk? We'll talk about it as we continue. But this is an amazing video that continues to demonstrate that peer support is necessary, that supporting and collaborating with others that are like-minded so that we can strengthen, right? Before 2020, and this is something, that I grew up, thinking, and families would instill it in ourselves, that if you have mental health issues, you cannot talk about it. And we're dealing with trauma, we're dealing with uncertainties, right, with young people and families. But though 2020 was a horrible, horrible moment for everyone, but it helped us acknowledge that there are issues that need to be addressed, right? And if our mind is not okay, it's really hard to develop the social and emotional support that community and our families and young people impacted by the justice system. And when I say justice system, I thought that it was just one system. But there are various systems, right, that we can talk about that do the same thing. So can you play the video? Let's put the video. Is a
It's on the next slide.
slide? Okay.
This is the right one, right?
Yes.
Yo told me he been on some positive. Yeah, yeah. Lately, I just want to show up in bodies. Yeah, yeah. Always been a little mathematician. Lately, it's cash I'm getting. Got me losing count of these bags. I've been moving too fast. Hard times don't last. Remember when cops are rats talking out too fast? Boy, you ain't with a badge. All my life, they be trying to keep me down. All this time, never thought I'd make it out. No, no, no. All my life, they be trying to keep me down. I decided I had to finish, but the media called me a menace. I just said with the mere politicians, I'm trying to change the image. You can't blame my past no more. I come from the trenches. Some said I'd never be a superstar, but I know I'm different. I'm a voice, but the system ain't give me a choice. Know some people that's still unemployed. I know a fellow who trying to get void. Child support, your only support. For a visit, I'm going through courts. Went to jail, they was chaining me up. And you know that I'm famous in the clutch. See how you gonna joke about stimulus, but they really came in the clutch. I know some kids wanna hurt themselves. Stop trying to take drugs, I refer to myself. Trying to better myself, trying to better my health. But all my life, they be trying to keep me down. All this time, never thought I'd make it out. A relationship so that we can make a better future for
Thank you, Lori.
It's gonna take time.
Is that good?
Yes, I mean, yes, it's good.
Okay.
Because it continues to remind me that the work that we're doing, whether it's with families, social workers, probation officers, case managers, caseworkers, we can go on and go on, that the same support that I'm asking for families and our peers who are going through similar situations, that we give it to everyone even in the field, right? Because mental health and trauma and even crossing over system involvement is not easy for families to navigate. I call myself the lucky parent. The lucky parent because I was working with a public school system. I'm a mom. I raised my older 5 kids. The little one was the one who got in trouble. But these systems, if I didn't have the support in my community and in my family, and when I say my family, the definition of family to me is not only the blood family. The definition of family is the folks that are around me, the good influence that are supporting me, that are educating me, that are grounding me, because I could have lost my mental well-being. But I knew that the issue that I was facing, because I had skills and support, that it was bigger than just myself and my youngest son. It impacted my community. It impacted many families across the country that looked like me. So it is important not only that we advocate for policy change, but to also, how do we support and strengthen our families, our communities, and our young people? Because when they're doing well, we feel good. We feel good that we were able, I'm meeting with folks about our next Family Leadership Institute. And the most important thing to do is not to just plant a seed, but how we continue cultivating that seed, how we continue watering the soil. I'm telling folks, we don't call the soil dirt. It's soil. We can use it, right? When we talk about the best soil, you can make the best soil out of compost, out of crap, out of things you just discard. And our young people and our families, sometimes we make mistakes that are horrible. Some, right, because the root of the issues were not taken care of. But we also know that when we invest the resources and the support and the emotional support that we all need, we can make a difference and not disrupt a well development. No matter, we all know that there's certain standards we want our children to reach, and our families. We have to meet them where they at. I think about the generational trauma and the issues that our communities have been facing. And there's data. When we talk about data, I hated data. Lori, there's certain things that, I tell folks, I hated data at one point, but I love data. I became a researcher. My first research project was Families Unlocking Futures. 15 organizations from around the country got involved in this research project. And I said, well, we're not guinea pigs. What you going to do with that report? That report was released in 2012, and it's 2024. And I'm still using that as my call to action, because every family that we surveyed, every family that sat on a focus group, they loved their children, but they didn't know what love looked like. They were very grounded in their community. They were very grounded. Many were faith-based members, but the stigma of, if there's an issue that has to do with you, and we can't continue stigmatizing the issues that our families face. We talked about also addiction and how addiction has been ripping our families apart. But I heard someone say yesterday from Colorado, I'm clean for 20 years because of my misuse of my misdirection of abuse. So also changing the language, help our families, even in our young people, embrace the support for the mental well-being, right? At one point it was, you say mental health and, oh, that's, we're going to put you somewhere where no one's going to see you. But I can happily say that I too, right, am acknowledging what systems created, and with my mental well-being, and what we can do to strengthen us, doing the work, being exposed to work, and are also experiencing. The next slide, I can go on, Lori. You gotta kind of tell me, gotta give me a sign.
Okay.
And this is, I showed you the national work, where we bring families from around the country. This past year, we included Puerto Rico, and all the issues are the same. We may speak a different language, we may dress differently, we may come from somewhere different, but when it comes to our families and our young people, We want the best thing for them. We want them to be productive, to have family members, to be productive members in society, right? And to have their own home and live comfortable, be fair. Let's be fair. And this video really demonstrates getting community together to invest in communities and to let them know that we see you, that the families that we talk about, and I'm one of those. This is the community that I've been living in for over 30 years, and the community that now we're saying justice for all families, and a community that has been neglected, who has been impacted by all systems, child welfare. We can also bring in the school to prison pipeline and how they've contributed. So now it's time that we build the support that communities need. We know that our families are resilient. We also, right, got to put those tools and skills together and those resources and the investment. So go ahead, Lori.
Okay.
Today's event is Justice for Families, preparing our kids to go back to school. But we also know that our schools have been failing our kids. Our kids are not allowed to be kids and have fun. Just creating a space where our kids can be kids. We also have become more aware and that the schools have disrupted their education through the school to prison pipeline, from detention to suspension to incarceration. These type of events remind us that we're all very similar, that we all have the same needs, and that we all want the same things for our children and our families. We want our children to be happy. We want families not to be raising kids till they're 50 years old, right? But to be taking a walk with their grandkids and building that generation. Thank you for the opportunity to witness what we do, because we can do this anywhere. That's my why. My why in partnering, collaborating, developing tools for families that have been discarded was because we deserve that opportunity. We love our children. We love our community. We all want safety. We all want everyone to be well.
What is that noise? Did something else start to play? Let me see if I can.
Je kent zeggen dat tegen mij.
What happened?
Today's event is Justice for Families.
I have
glad I'm
Thinking of the other one.
I'm just glad I'm not the techie person.
Kijk, in Nederland is zo, eens crimineel, altijd crimineel.
I'll pause recording.
Maar
You know, as I'm thinking of how to help our families that were referred to us by probation and other systems, I used to say, how are we going to take care of probation? Because they're expected to do all this work and we're not holding other systems accountable. We need to do some things to include, right, the department in some of our activities and even self-care workshops, not just understanding and getting to know each other in orientation, but self-care is, right? And not sure if you noticed in our first video that I said that was our Family Leadership Institute. But we knew that we also had to incorporate activities that focused on wellness and self-care. So we did equine therapy, horseback riding, and being able to connect with an animal, a huge animal. We also did art, right? So what are the things, right? One way you take care of yourself. I do yoga, so I stepped up now. I'm Jeanette from the hood that likes yoga now. I do mindfulness, right? Now I say namaste. Before it was like, what is that? And who's that one person you can turn to for support? So when I don't know if we're going to break into groups or how we do this, Lori, in the chat.
No.
Everyone, we go around, we do popcorn, like, boop,
I thought they could put it into their into the chat, and I'll just read over some of them as we go along. Beverly Griffin says, watching the kids play in the pool was like an eye-opener. Not all communities have pools that children and youth can access for low cost. That was on your video, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I love your realness. I take care of myself by walking and reading. I turn to a good friend for support. Yoga and crochet, making some time to work out. Cold plunge, my wife. Not you, but your wife, huh? I take care of myself by committing to series like this one. Walking, reading, visiting the beach, getting nails done, workout, to name a few. Watching positive and motivating YouTube videos. Cooking good food with my husband is my support person. Walk, pray, mediate, use 5 senses when doing things. I think that is awesome. Because sometimes we do it all at one level, and it's nice to use all 5 of our senses. Working out, baking bread is so therapeutic for me. Crocheting, my partner is my support, spending time in nature, read the Bible, reading, spin class with my sisters, and my sisters. I spend quality time with my immediate family as self-care, counseling, worship, and time with the Lord alone. Walking, my pet and family. I laugh with my family and make silly videos and pray. Yoga, reading, cuddling with my dog. Sometimes it's a long drive with good music. Going to the beach with my unsweetened iced tea. Taking walks with quality time with my family. Listening to music, watching Westerns and old movies. My husband is my support. There was another one that said my wife is my ongoing support. One way I take care of myself is working out with every weekday. One person I can turn to for support is my partner. Walking, my fur baby, balloon, decor, and listening to music. I have fun ladies' nights with my friends. I turn to my son today, and we have become good friends. That's great. One way to care for yourself is not by intaking negative thoughts. My wife is my go-to person for support. Making tea, reading scripture, praying. I take care of myself, my partner, and walking guided meditation. So awesome, good things there, Jeanette, that are,
Everything that was mentioned, right on point.
yes.
Right on point. Not only one person said something about YouTube technology, but I think you only read one. But much of what was said was, it didn't cost anybody anything, right? Maybe the meal, cooking a meal together, which is amazing. I tell our young people and our families that we work with, because we also provide cooking classes. We host them in person, and we also invite the other families to join us virtually. The chef does she joins us virtually. But we create moments where families can eat healthy, spend those moments together. We do walking, Woman Wednesday walk, where we get up early and meet early in the morning and just take a walk, a mile walk. It don't cost us anything. Support each other. How do we create those moments, right, where we can support each other? It's not going to cost us anything. Well, maybe the pedicure. I think somebody said pedicure too. And I tell people pedicure for me is not self-care, because I got some clipping and pulling, and that's painful too. But walking on the sand in the beach with a nice pedicure. I see some heads nodding.
Yeah.
Right. And what beautiful way to spend your time sitting on the sand, listening to the ocean. And for many of us who live in communities that are just a revolving door of system involvement, it's even hard to embrace those spaces. We don't feel like we deserve those spaces. even taking a walk in the park. You know, it took me a long time to take a walk upstate New York where the prisons are at, because I was traumatized for a long time that I only visit that land when I went to visit my loved one. And I had to go back as a guest and feel the love. I felt the love. I went in the river. I took a walk. She had like, I don't know, over 20 acres of land. I said, can you find me a whistle so I don't get lost? I don't want to wander away. But I felt like I needed that. And many of our families, that's all they need. Someone to say it's going to be okay. Our workers, it's going to be okay. Because as the graph and the folks that I see here is beautiful. I see a very diverse group. But I also know that many of us, just because we're doing the work, doesn't mean we're not impacted. Somewhere along the line, a brother, a sister, a cousin, a husband, somebody we don't want to talk about because of the stigma, they're going to make me feel like I did something wrong. Anybody that come into my office, I say, you better have a problem, because if you don't got a problem, I got one. And now we come to to say, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. If I fell down 6 times, I got up 10 times. If you fall, you get up. And honestly, and when I think about it, I might get teary. If I didn't do crochet that I learned when I was 8 years old while my son was in jail, I don't know what would happen. If I didn't know how to take a walk to the garden, the community garden, I don't know where I would be at today. If I didn't meet the families that I met that would say, me too, I don't know where I'd be at. So the support is needed, right? But we also got to take care of ourselves. I also know how to get on a plane now and say, hey, I'm in Puerto Rico now. I needed a break for 2 days. And these are amazing family leaders that attended our last Family Leadership Institute. Justice for Families was founded by families for families. And though it was created as a research, we didn't want it to just stay as a research. And I'm really glad for the folks that I met. I met Zach Norris, who received the Soros Fellowship. I met many families from across the country who were impacted. Debbie, Jeanette, Grace. Many of us that don't look like what people say. We don't see the issues as much, but we know they in our hearts, in our minds. And if we're not okay, our children are not going to be okay. And we got to ask, are our children okay? And these families are amazing. They from around the country who now have an action plan, not to just see this as a job, but as a mission to be fair, to bring wellness, to make sure that our children understand. And not only that, but then now tackle the policies and the practices that have for far too long harmed us. And we know that policies can be changed and practices can be changed. During COVID, many decision makers across all systems were able to make discretionary decisions because of COVID and say, you get resources, you go home, you get this, you get that. And acknowledge that the onion had a lot of layers to unpeel. And when you unpeel an onion, you got to make sure that you're ready because it's teary. And we're ready. We're ready. This is our report. You know, we can, Lori, I can send you the link if anyone wants to go into our website and read the report. The
We
report really
we
captured.
can send it along with the recording tomorrow, so we could certainly send that out.
You know, the report really captured, right, the horrible things that were going on in our juvenile justice system. But we also know that they were not doing a good job because they were graduating to the adult system. And what I couldn't understand is when our children are taken away from communities to get reformed, they don't come back the same. And the mental well-being and the trauma that they're exposed to, and then families and communities are expected to put it together with no resources and not knowing how, we're making a difference today because we're being transparent, we're talking about it, and we know that our goal is to make sure that every children have an opportunity. And if it's up to us, we're going to make sure that of that. Every family, right? Is the misconception of families don't love their children. Families don't care. I can tell you, I love my mother to death. There's no woman, that 80-year-old lady, I love her. You see how 80-year-olds, they so cute? But she also is a survivor of bad systems that didn't take care of the community. So we're not trying to address something that's just happening today. It's generational. So when we're helping ourselves and our families and our young people that are coming in through our doors, let's not forget the unit of that family. The preventive, right? We also talk about how do we prevent system involvement. And when we look at, right, the investment is going into things that have not worked. And there's data on that too. I told you I love data. I can tell you data, and I worked on 3 different research projects. And one was during COVID, which said we need to do a better job in every system. Parents, you know, I said I didn't trust the system at all as a parent. My heart, I used to get anxiety every time I had to go to court or anywhere. The experience was horrible. And I wanted to say, right, when the YouTube video was going on, Lori, that it was some language that I couldn't understand. I don't know what language was that after the video on YouTube. And I said, that's how I felt navigating a system. Like, what language is this? And I
What are
speak,
they speaking?
I don't know what, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
There's no trust. I felt embarrassed, right? This shame. I'm someone who's a community activist, and I work with the schools. Now I'm a parent in the justice system. I looked at my older kids who never went through the system. I graduated them from high school. They went away to school, community school, state school. I graduated one with special needs. She graduated from a public school, from a private school, paid by the public school, because as an advocate, I demonstrated that the public school wasn't doing their job. So you hit them where it hurts. The money now goes to private school, where they met her needs. And guilt, where did I go wrong? My children had to say, Mommy, look at us. Look at us. You did a good job. But I didn't look at that. And I said the lack of language, right? Understanding. And the one thing that I will always remember, and I like to share this one, and I laugh about it now. Going to family court and having a court-appointed lawyer for my 14-year-old who can't really say anything to me because of confidentiality. Speak to corporation counsel and maybe you can work something out. And I said, okay, let's talk about punctuality, getting to school early, going to his basketball program, you know, things that families want their kids to do. Your Honor, this family has no control over their son, that he's running reckless around the did I say that? I was talking to Corporation Counsel, who's the district attorney in family court. I said, oh, so understanding language is so key. And I felt if I can't understand, I got to help other families who may feel like me and don't have the support and the resources and the courage, because sometimes it takes courage. It takes courage to do this work. It can be very intimidating. So navigating the juvenile justice system can be very, very challenging. And I'm really proud that even through the report in New York, we were able to meet with the Department of Probation and every family court here in New York has a parent support program that can help families navigate. We have 5 courts in New York, and all those 5 courts have a parent support program.
So there's a comment in the chat that says, my juvenile justice allies were taught that families were co-conspirators. That's why they called families they worked with. They learned that was undermining everything they were trying to do, and they started working with us to reform the system.
You know, I'm really proud of many of the jurisdictions that we've been working with across the country, because it's really a testament of saying every parent wants to get involved in anything that's right if you include them. You can't put a recipe together, bake something or cook something without knowing if I'm allergic to any of anything that you're going to serve me. Right? So when I also say, if you include families in a decision making, in the planning, right? And you're not looking at them as the problem, but when you start looking at them as the problem, there's no trust. So when I talk about my personal experience and there was no trust, both families don't trust systems and systems don't trust family. And it really takes a lot of work to be able to build that trust. And I'm really happy, right, that I got involved in ways that we teach each other what collaboration looks like, what respects and boundaries look like. And I've considered myself a family member with the Department of Probation, because we didn't look at each other as someone working against each other. Right. And the reason why maybe things may not work is because of what I said, even when I met Corporation Counsel. You use some of my words and flip them and articulate it in a way as if I had no control over my son. And I had to prove that was not the case. So this systems don't trust families and families don't trust systems, right? But how do we overcome some of those barriers? We meet families where they at. And there's many times that doing this work, and for me, it's not a 9 to 5. And I'm going to say that for many of you all, it's not a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? So taking care of each other and the work, and as a staff member or as a parent, caretaker, is important. And when we don't trust system, we have a lot of work to do. And you know, I tell many of the younger folks that are working in certain systems, you inherited these practices, right? Because we all have discretionary decision. We all know about additional resources. Or this work and working with families is not a one size fits all. We have to be creative. You know, I used to say, when working with families, we got to create individual plans for them.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, as I'm saying, a one size fits all.
Yeah. There's another comment in here about Los Angeles. According to California, they moved all of their resources to the counties rather than the state. The state doesn't do anything. And LA is not doing anything. So it sounds like it's bad, but it also sounds like an opportunity where you're starting on the ground floor and can build something, right?
But usually, right, we're looking at the regular suspects of programming and organizations that are the regular ones who get large pockets of funds. And we're not looking at the local grassroots, really grounded, to be able to continue doing that support, whether it's for yourself in your community. We gotta be able to create those hubs in spaces that allows us to really get the support that we need, the tools of advocacy and tools of well-being. I mean, I say they go hand in hand now. Supporting yourself, and the type of work that we do is that peer support, right? How do we support a family member, right? But not crutch them either. You know, my mentor used to say, we have to sometimes be strong, right? And help you get up, but not be a crutch, because there's work to do. When we look at the bigger picture, right? Though we come in as, this is my why, you know, I got introduced because, but it has to be bigger than that. When we look at how systems have been working, right? And when we look and we talk about, again, data, right? So how do we collaborate? And when we say system and community restorative circles, I really mean it, right? I really mean, how do we support those who've been working in the system? You know, I did a training about 2 years ago at Rikers Island with some of the correction officers. And we had a diverse group of age as well. And a young woman says, I wanted to make a difference when I came to do the work as a CO. But it's difficult if the message, right, is not a universal message. And in order to restore and heal, and even add that as part of professional development, healing and restoring should be part of professional development. I love that. I don't know why I just came up with that, because it is part of we incorporate it in our curriculum and in our trainings. But literally, it should be incorporated as a professional development course for everyone that work with families and young people and systems that are harsh to navigate and very frustrating. You know, those conversations I mean, you got, I'm going to assume that you guys are not the regular suspects and you're pushing the needle, right? Or the thread, the way whatever they say, but the work is hard. And I see also, right, well, some folks got their cameras off, but I see some young faces, right? I see some faces that are my generation. You know, I gotta keep it at not even name the age, right? But then also, you know, we also have to value, and you know, I'm gonna just say it. I'm one of the elders. I mean, I don't know why they call me an elder, but I like it now, right? The wise people, right? The wise folks, right? And we started thinking about grandma when COVID hit. Grandma used to make this beautiful syrup, right? Grandma took care of those bad colds. And for many of us, our grandmas mean the world. Grandma stood up for us, but who stood up for grandma? You know, I think about so much about our communities, how resilient they are and strong. You know, you know, sometimes I could sprain my ankle and I keep moving. I said, no, I got to go to work. This ankle's not going to stop me. I limp to work because we're strong and we're resilient, but we also got to take care of ourselves. I won't do that now. I would do that 20 years ago, right? Because I know my bones, they heal better than at 57. Oh, I said my age and we're recording. That was, take it back. Edit that. Edit that. If we got a techie person there, please edit that. But we all need support. We all need support. We all, when we talk about peers, it takes me back with when I used to facilitate workshops for parents about teenagers and their peers. And we used to say, oh, we don't want you with the bad peers. But we need peers, right? With good influence that can say, right at a moment, who can you call? I used to tell parents who thought that calling the cops for their kids not waking up to go to school was the best decision that she could make. She would call the cops because her son didn't want to wake up. She didn't want to be penalized for educational neglect. And I said, call me. She said, 6:30, 5:30. I said, whenever you want him to wake up, call me. And we'll talk and negotiate with him. He was going to school now 3 days a week. Better than not going at all. And just improving those communication and resources, right? We all have one and we all need one.
So I remember in my early years as a family support person, juvenile helpers telling families to call the cops as often as they needed, but they didn't realize that the long-term consequence of that is your kid graduating from high school with this arm-length rap sheet that they didn't need to have. So we've learned a lot in the years, but I think some of that still happens.
It does, right? And again, data. I love data. During COVID, right, the numbers dropped of young people getting incarcerated and they were releasing kids. But the number of educational neglect and family disputes and domestic violence went up.
Went up, yeah.
And because, right, many families didn't know how to be in the same space for too long. My husband was getting on my nerves. Watch it, Jeanette, you're recording. But incarceration really doesn't do our families any good. It increased, I feel the work today is more important because of many of our loved ones who came from incarceration or different institutions back to the community with no resources, no support, with more trauma than when they left, less educated. We have a lot of work and a lot of healing, a lot of restoring. And many of our young people who go through the system have no hope. You ask them where they see themselves. Sometimes 18 is not even, I'm going to be 18 free. They see themselves either dead or locked up. That's the reality. I live in a community that they call it the $1 million block here in New York. Well, I'm in Indianapolis right now, but I'm from New York.
We could tell from your accent.
I say I'm born in the Bronx and my mother's Puerto Rican, so it's the combination.
Yeah.
And this can burn you out. And we talk about juvenile justice and, I that's what I was asked to do. But every system contributes equally to the mental well-being of our families, our young people. New Yorican, yes, Sonia. And not even wanting to socialize. It's hard. And I also say, right, I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate. But as you see the bullets and right, anyone easily, when navigating an intimidating system, incarceration has really ripped our communities apart. Families don't know how to restore and repair. And it is our duty, right, for those who know the harms. And when we see a young person or family member exhibiting, right, those traumas and those moments where if you don't know the root, some folks may say, well, call the cops. Call the cops quickly. You know, I work with young people as well in my community that are being forced to leave because they're 18 from foster care, not because of their behavior. And well, you're 18, you can leave now. Go get an apartment, go get a job. Now you're 18. Remember, you said 18, you're leaving.
All of the hardest decisions to make are right then.
So people who are directly impacted by the justice system, we're trying to build relationships, authentic relationships. What are the specific issues that you're passionate about? Who's working on those issues? We have to start talking about it and naming them. Are there other people who are directly impacted by the justice system that are organizing around these issues? Though it's embarrassing, right? Because no one wants to talk about incarceration. You know, I tell folks I lost my own family because they weren't ready to embrace those conversations because they also worked with systems. And now I'm that parent on the other side. So we have to look at the issues, right? Not in silos. If you're working with schools, right? Look at why some of these kids are getting suspended, why they're being pushed out. If they have special needs, there's also policies, right, that can't keep them away from their schools. And families don't know. If you're also dealing with child welfare, right? I just learned a few months ago about a CAPTA law. I didn't know about CAPTA law, the child abuse prevention, right, law that they have. And poverty is the #1 disruptor of families. So I couldn't, right, working from school system to juvenile justice, but also, right, being transparent and holding those to accountable, come to the table. Your system is crossing over. Kids are crossing over. And when a family member has to navigate various systems, that's even harder.
Yeah, it's also traumatizing or re-traumatizing families when they have to enter each system individually. That's why it's so important to get that crossover.
And to be able to collaborate with those other folks, right? Case managers.
And learn their language.
And also so that we're not even overwhelming the family. Like you have to go here and then you got to go across town 20, 30 minutes away. And then after there, an hour later, you got to go an hour away. And transportation is not like in New York.
No, and you have to tell your story over and over and over again.
And why were you here? And many times that young people, right, we were strongly encouraged, go see your therapist, right? But it takes 3 visits at least to let the wall down. Once you come back, the 4th, 5th time, you got a new case manager. And instead of reading maybe notes, or tell me why you here.
For the 4th time.
We don't want to, right? And what do I see that helps create and restore calm, right? When I walked into this space, right, I told you I had to, the smell alone gave me this tranquility, right? Or things that I see, right? You know, I say, you know, we teach the human things we want our little ones to learn, right? The simple things that we can, right? And with the hopes that we can do it, right? We touch, and then we say, don't touch. We teach words. Shh, shut up, shut up. Right?
So
And
Jeanette, does everybody have a CAPTA in their community?
it's a federal law, right?
It's federal? Okay.
Yeah. It's
Somebody's asking
federal.
because they didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Beverly, for putting in the link for that.
You know, and virtual, the virtual is beautiful, right? It allows us to do more and even increase the amount of folks that we get to meet. But we also need that human connection, right? That's what's important, right? To really build community, right? Define your family and get grounded. We can do it.
So somebody said in the earlier comment section about what they use to get support, and they do something that uses all 5 senses, and it reminded me of that slide because I thought that was critical because you used all the senses there for us to be able to connect with people.
You know, and it allows us, right, to even teach our children many different learning styles and our families, right? Sometimes we're just conditioned that to be okay, an Advil will take care of it. But there's so much that we can do, even with scented oils, right? I love oils. You know, they got these new things that you put in your shower, and it's like salt and it has lavender, eucalyptus, right? How do we use all the natural things that can help us and ground us? Because as long as we're grounded, we can continue helping those, right? And I always say, you know, when people are hurting, it's hard to help others, but when we're okay, oh my goodness, it's like my cup is over. I try to say I want it to be overflowing so that it doesn't stay empty, right? So I can give what's falling out, right? And I can keep what's falling out is that I'm pouring out. So we're closing, right? And I don't know this. I'm about to say this was quick, Lori.
Well, I have a couple of questions. So do you want to do that first? Or do you want to do the closing?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Do the questions. Do the questions.
So somebody asked in chat, how can public libraries help?
You know, public libraries, I'm very fortunate. I also live and have my office across the street from the public library in the Bronx, right? It's always wonderful to put information in the public library. I'm also very fortunate. I've been saying I call myself the fortunate parent. I also was able to partner with an amazing organization called United Way. Many of you may know United Way. They're all over. They donated a community library, right? So we also know that the library has restrictions. It's always good to put information of your work and what you're doing, and even schedule, right? They have the space. Because in my community, we've done stuff in the library, but also, be mindful. You have to schedule. There's probably some regulations. You probably got to go through the city, the county. I'm not sure where everybody is from, but I'm gonna say specifically in New York, there are things that we all do it with support in collaborating with the library, the community library. We've done workshops for families and young people in the library, but you got to schedule it, right? Build a relationship with the manager at the library. And they're always open to do things for the community.
Thank you. And somebody also mentioned that they had just reorganized Children's Mobile Crisis Unit. Is that something that you would are familiar with, or?
Well, we know there's mobile services, whether it's for like mobile books, mobile, right, tests for HIV or mammograms, right? For suicide prevention. They're mobiles, and I think that's really great for communities to know about. It'll also be good to park it in communities that have a high rate of those issues, but it's amazing when right, it becomes more accessible when the mobile can, right, it's closer to you. I know that again in New York, we have access to transportation in many different ways. But for areas where transportation is not accessible, right, to have it in a mobile, a crisis mobile, where it can meet the needs of those individuals where they at. Did I answer your question?
So she, I think, said, this is an after-hours program for youth 0 to 20. Any parent or youth can call and we will go to their home.
See, that's amazing, right? Sometimes, it's hard again because of transportation or, not being able to have childcare, right? Or maybe, the idea of come to my home because our family need the support, right? So being open, and that's trusting, right? When a family opens the door, I think that's so important that we do, right, what needs to get done, because not every family, right, opens the door in a welcoming way. It could be very intrusive, right? So I think it's our job. For me, when I used to do home visits, I used to say, well, before we go in, I used to bring someone with me. You never do a home visit alone, and say, let's go get a care package and buy, things to bring to the home, like a
Yeah.
gift. And so when families do open those doors, I think that, we should be honored.
That's right.
And if we see, right, that there's issues, right, that it doesn't become, I'm gonna file a report on you, right? If no one is hurt, and this the reason is that they have a mattress on the floor, then you know what? Let me figure out how to get a bed frame. Let me figure out how to get some pillows. If the refrigerator, they say, we don't have, let's figure out how do we, right? Those red tapes sometimes are issues, right? And referrals from one hand to the next hand. Like, listen, I was hungry today, not next week. Next week, I already solved the problem. But families, right, really welcome the support when those discretionary decisions, right? When you say, you know what, it's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna do it for you. I sat in a meeting on a child conferencing meeting, a mom dealing with child welfare. I couldn't believe it was like almost 4 hours. Lucky she was at our office and someone was with her 2 kids. But by the time they were finished, I said, I felt like I was in a domestic violence relationship. You just beat me and then tell me, I love you at the end. What was that?
Yeah.
So we have to be authentic, right? And also, right, be mindful of yourself. When you know you're not okay, pause, use some of those techniques that works for you. Whether you have a little bottle of oil, eucalyptus, mint, and you say, okay, right? Or if it's you need to eat a bag of chips, because I love chips and a ginger ale. Like, you can buy me with a bag of chips and a ginger ale.
I can be bribed. William says, one of the challenges I have experienced is that we can provide youth with programs, experiences, and exposures to activities outside of their community. The issue is that we are not working on the family home to support those efforts and improve the family well-being. What do you recommend to address that barrier to successful outcomes?
Kick that barrier out the way. You know the issue. Now let's solve it, right? Those programs should be accessible to the parent. I always said, you can't help me if you ain't helping my child. And if you helping my child, if you don't engage me, everything is going to go out the window. Because no matter how much I pour, if the home doesn't embrace it and it's a partner, I don't care what you did with that program, so you ain't going to bring that over here. So when we support the family and support even the siblings, right? Because we forget about the siblings. We forget that the sibling is doing well and they don't need attention. And my youngest daughter, who's a year older than my son, resented me for a long time. She said I spent too much weekends visiting him, that I didn't meet her social and emotional need. I said, well, I thought because you was 15, you was okay. You going to school, I buy you the things you need. I take you wherever at times I'm going. But she needed more than that. So when we're talking about young people and just the family, let's embrace the unit of that family, because we're also preventing the younger one to have to even experience anything similar. And that can be an issue for many of our families, right? If one is getting in trouble, now another system want to look at you and see what's going on at home, because if one is in trouble, we got to make sure the other one's okay. And that's not okay.
Yeah. So somebody said that there are reasons sometimes when people sleep on the floor. So make sure that you're understanding the family culture before you go in and try and change everything to be what you think is right, right? Because are some safety reasons why people sleep on mattresses on the floor.
Let me clarify myself with that.
Okay.
I understand that. My daughter used to have her mattress on the floor because she thought she was going to fall down from the time she was a little girl.
Yeah.
And in school, she wanted to sit on the floor, not on the chair. And I had to go to the school and explain, because she was getting in trouble for not wanting to sit on the chair. So I had to explain to the teacher, she has a fear, right? It may be a culture or it may be a fear. She had a fear. So it can be both ways, right? But in my example was two young girls who were fighting in school every day. We went to visit the home. She wasn't comfortable sleeping on the mattress, right? So every family is different. The cultures are different, right? The issues are different, but the concerns that we all want, the issues and the concerns, we want the best for our children. We want them to be okay. So providing resources and support to the entire family, right? And at times you may say, well, we don't got the funds to do that. But we also know that we can get creative to do things.
Yeah. Jennifer Balderas, you said you found a podcast that was really helpful to you. I'd like to send a link to that podcast out, and would you please send that to me or put it in the chat so that I can share it with everybody else? It's Through the Hard: Parenting Teens in Crisis, and it really was helpful when going through your 15-year-old's arrest. So I think it's something that other people would probably enjoy as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing that. Some question is how to find children's crisis units. How do you find those? Do you just call? I wonder if they're on 988 or 211 at this point. Do you know, Jeanette?
Here in New York, you have 911, right? One of the things that as community leaders and folks who are grounded in doing the work, right, that sometimes we got to do our homework, right? We're giving a brochure or a list of providers, and we'll send the family there. Maybe that program is not working. There are local programs, but we have to do our homework, and right, sometimes the internet is not going to tell you which one is doing the job that's needed. There are crisis mobiles, right?
Yeah.
Your go to your councilman's office, right? And usually council folks, legislators, right? The local ones are the ones implementing and putting some of these, right, resources in our community.
Yeah. Bobby said, and I love this, Bobby, remember that the family is like a bucket. If the whole unit's concerns are not being addressed, it's like putting water into a bucket with a hole in it, and it will never be filled. So I really like that. Thank you, Bobby. That was great.
And many systems, right, are looking for innovative ways, right, to encourage young people, even families, to participate. And that's wonderful, right? Because it's meeting a need, but it's not taking care of the issue.
Right.
And
go ahead.
Again, it is important. Thank you for the analogy of the bucket, right? If we don't support the entire family, it's going to be a waste.
That's right. Right. And as far as the mobile crisis units, it's different in different places. 988 is farther along in some states than it is in some others. And so you can try 211 or Red Cross, 211 in California, 988 in West Virginia. So there's a 211 or 988 seems to be the place to go. Okay, and we want to finish with your closing slide that said put in something in the chat that in one word or a small phrase that tells you what you're going to take away from today. Knock the doors down. Do it out of the box. And I'm glad that you're feeling hopeful and that this is good opening language for some of you to learn that new language and hear the great things. So thank you so much. Never give up. I like that. And we're not alone. I still love going to the Bahamas for a few days. Wouldn't we all love to go to the Bahamas for a few days, right? Right. Okay. In closing, and thank you for going back to the slides, Bridget. If you wouldn't mind going to our closing slides, there. Our next presentation will be Wednesday. Well, first of all, before I talk about the next presentation, thank you, Jeanette. There have been lots of wonderful accolades for you in the chat. I hope you've been able to read some of them, of people who really appreciate your straightforwardness, your experience, and your energy to share with all of us. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And thank you
inviting.
for taking the time in your travel I was afraid we were going to have to talk to Jeanette at the airport, but I'm so glad that her airplane was delayed. So thank you for that. You will get the certificate of completion at the end of the event, and you can get a copy of the presentation. So the slides will be sent to you, and a copy of the webinar will be sent to you in the next couple of days. Next slide. We need to hear from you. We love reading our surveys. It helps us know if we're hitting the mark or if we need to do something better. So please take a few minutes and to complete the survey. It's got 7 or 8 questions. They're very easy. It's really a good thing for you to do. Thank you. Next slide. So again, to remind you of the virtual summit, somebody tried to register today and emailed me and said, this isn't a Zoom and I didn't get a link. And I said, no, it's not a Zoom, it's on AirMeet, and NTAC will send you the link, but they want everybody to register first, and then they will send you the information on how to get on this wonderful summit. And it's, again, really great information for everyone. So please, it's free. That's the best part, right? That's the best part. Okay, the next one. I see in the chat that you'll get a link to the will we get a link to the survey? The survey will come immediately after this is closed, and it will come again. I don't think it comes again. So as soon as this is closed, you'll get a link to the survey. If you want to have access to the NTAC website, here are all the ways you can be in touch with them. They have all of the archived recordings. So if you've missed a family exchange in the past and are interested in what we're doing, please go there to find them. And one more slide, I think, gives you all of the way to, that's how you contact information for NTAC. Their website, their phone number. You can request technical assistance if you're in need of that. And you can email them to have some questions answered. Thank you again, Jeanette, for your time and your efforts today. And thank you all for joining us. We hope you found something interesting and helpful in this meeting and in this presentation. So Jeanette safe travels back to New York, and we'll talk to you all again next month.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye.